let's talk about DACA and the Dreamers. So I've been telling you now for quite some time that the country is split into two movies. On one movie, we have a monster who has somehow accidentally been elected president of the United States, and he's going to monster things up and do some monster stuff. On the other side, we got a president who is a little different, but he's effective. So it's completely different movies. But this DACA situation is such a clean example. It's just mind-blowing. And it's a good example of strategic ambiguity, which President Trump and before that candidate Trump used a lot. It's the best one I've seen. It's also an example of pacing and leading. All right, so let's back up. So during the campaign, President Trump was saying, ship everybody back. If you're not here legally, ship them back. And that would have included the so-called dreamers, the kids who were brought here as children through no fault of their own and have grown up as Americans but without legal papers. But now he's in a situation where he can't really do that. Right? The country isn't going to stand for 800,000 Americans, in many people's view, being shipped to another country that they don't even remember. Yeah, some are in their 30s. Yeah, it doesn't matter how old they are. It's the same story. So you have this weird situation where, depending who you talk to, President Trump either did one of these two things, and this just depends who you talk to, and everybody is looking at the same news. Some people are looking at the news and they're saying, President Trump ended DACA. It's the end of the world. He's a monster, just like we said he was. What a vile human being. How can anybody do that? That's what's happening in one movie. And that movie is perfectly supported because there's a law that says they can stay, DACA, and President Trump said he's not going to extend the law beyond some period. So it is accurate to say that he ended DACA, and if you want to see that movie, it's right there for you, okay? But if you wanted to see the other movie, the one I'm watching, President Trump said, hey, this executive order is unconstitutional, and probably, this is the type of law, and I'm using law loosely, right? I know it's not a law. This is the type of decision, let's call it a decision, that you want the country to be comfortable with as a whole. You want credibility in your decision. And the president is just the wrong person to do that, with this president or any other. You needed the Congress so that you felt that the larger will of the people was part of the decision. So Congress was always the right place to make this decision. 6 months is certainly enough to do something. And then people said, okay, we understand that he's putting it to Congress, and Congress could just, fix it up and it could come back as the same as a law instead of whatever it is now, executive order. And and so you've got these two movies running, one where he's canceled it and the other where he's fixing it. Literally sending it to Congress is the only way to fix it because it's sort of their job. It should turn into a law. So he's given, this is what I call strategic ambiguity. If you like these folks and you want them to stay, he's given you all the reason to believe that that's what he wants and what he's going to do. He sent it over to Congress, where the odds are very high that it will be passed, become a law. And then he said that if Congress doesn't make it a law, he said he'll take care of it, which basically says he'll extend it, all right? So he said as clearly as possible two opposite things. President Trump has intentionally created two movies. I call it strategic ambiguity, meaning that people can see whichever movie they want, and all the evidence is there for them to say, yeah, this movie is the right one. So if you think he's a monster, he just canceled DACA. Proof. You couldn't be more monstrous than that, right? sending 800,000 people who did nothing wrong but try to be good Americans, and and they're young adults, and they're paying their taxes, and they're working jobs, and they're saving people in the hurricanes. So if you want to watch the movie where he's a monster, it's right there. All the facts are there right for you. But if you want to watch the other movie where he was pacing and leading the entire time, and he never intended to send back 800,000 people who consider themselves American and work alongside people who also consider those people Americans. That was never going to happen. Never going to happen. But it probably did need to become a law and go through the Congress and become a real thing. So he gave them 6 months, which is plenty of time, and said, hey, work this out. And he also said, because people asked questions, they were saying, you monster. He said, well, if Congress doesn't make it a good law because we love these people, I'll take care of it. Now, the movie I'm watching, I'll take care of it, only means one thing. It could not be more clear that they're going to stay. All right, how could that be more clear? But there are two movies running at the same time, and they're both clear. He does this a lot. So how could President Trump pivot from his campaign promises of we're shipping everybody out of the country? How do you pivot immediately from that to, no, we're actually just keeping everybody? You can't. So you have to do something a little more clever. You say, procedurally, this belongs in Congress, and it does, right? There's no way anybody's really going to argue where it belongs. Pretty much everybody agrees it belongs in Congress, both sides, right? So he put it where both sides believe it should be. And so far, nobody's going to complain because they're like, okay, I get it. You said during the campaign, ship them all back, but it really isn't your decision. It's sort of a Congress decision. So, okay, we supporters of President Trump, meaning anybody who supports him, not talking about myself necessarily. We trust you because you're not only said what we say, which is those people were saying, hey, ship everybody back, but they're also saying put it in the right place for the decision, which is Congress. So far he can keep his base happy-ish because at least it's being decided in the right place. And if it goes against what people wanted, I think you'll see lots of human interest stories coming out about DACA folks who are good people and they've helped the world, and it's going to soften up his base to say, all right, yeah, we can live with this. And the secret is that because President Trump believes, or because he's created in people a certain trust on his side, that he at least agrees with them emotionally. In other words, he agrees that if people are coming here taking jobs, something needs to be done. But when people look at this group of folks as human beings and essentially Americans in a virtual sense, if not a legal sense, it's kind of hard to be a dick to somebody who's just here working and has been here essentially all their life. So that's it. You got two movies running on one screen. It's fascinating today to watch the news and watch them talk about their two movies. The people who come on and say it has been canceled, he's a monster, they will just not mention the fact that he put it in the right place, Congress, and the Congress will almost certainly keep the main elements of it, which is to keep the people affected here. You might change the chain migration or whatever it's called, where you can bring relatives in as some kind of a compromise. So you can see it as that movie, or you can see it as he just put it over in Congress and everybody's fine.